Welcome, everybody, to the So You Want to Be a Final Fantasy XIV podcaster live from LunarCon 2021. Welcome, everybody. Hi, everybody, live at LunarCon. I hope you're doing well. I have with myself, my name is Peter. With me is also a good friend of mine and fellow podcaster, Chille. Hey, Chille, how are you?
Hey, I just realized I could hear you twice because I had your stream open so that you can capture it. And then I could also hear you in Discord. So
Yeah.
I hopefully this will work still.
It should be fine, Chille. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
You could also use your wavelength. We'll talk about that a little bit.
I have never worked out to use that.
Oh, no. All right. Well, we'll be fine. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here live at LunarCon. We hope you're doing well. We hope you're enjoying the weekend and all the festivities. We know that the last year has been strange and there hasn't been any conventions and there wasn't really a fan festival other than digital. So I am excited to be here along with Chille that we're doing this convention in the year 2021 via, the power of Twitch and the internet. Yeah. So we have 45 minutes to go through this, and we want to make sure that there's time left at the end of the panel for some questions and answers. So let's get started. We figured that we'd get the boring stuff out of the way and get into the more interesting stuff later, so that way you can get some of this information early, and then we'll talk about like the fun stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. And the first thing we want to discuss here is, of course, gear, things you'll need to do podcasting with, and I'll switch over to that screen so you all can see it. So from what you know is that, at least some of the things you'll need to do a podcast is a microphone, and a computer's questionable. You can probably do one from your phone, honestly.
Probably, yeah.
But on the screen we do have some different sections of microphones. If you are new to podcasting, I think both Chille and I would agree on this, is that do not break your bank. Do not drop 100, 200.
Unless you're rich. If you're rich, then go ahead. If you're already do it. If you're not rich and you're like most people, just spend how much you feel like you can afford, because every podcast starts out small and then grows over time. So just remember, you're going to be a loss earner for a while.
Yeah.
Or in my case, forever.
So up there at the top, we have budget microphones, less than $50. You're probably great grabbing a Blue Snowball or a Razer Siren, or even the Toner TC30, which comes with a pop filter, which is pretty awesome. Having that extra pop filter is great. Pop filters help break the plosives, or which are your P sounds on your microphone. Chille and I both have you have a screen filter on yours as well, right, Chille?
Yeah, I do.
So as we know that you don't need to break the bank for a decent microphone. The ones on this list are some of the ones. There are tons of microphone. I would suggest listening. If you go to YouTube, there are plenty of people that test these microphones, so you can hear the sound for yourself, which is great. So, and then if you're looking for more of a mid-range microphone, or you have a little bit more money to spend, the Blue Yeti Nano, the Rode Pod mic, the Samson Meteor USB, these are all solid choices. I do want to talk a little bit about USB versus XLR. Chille, you and I both have USB microphones.
Yes, we do.
And I will say that USB is a little more inexpensive. It does have decent sound quality, which I hope you're hearing come across. It's great for portability when paired with a laptop, and it's easy for setup and go. Some of the cons of USB microphones, it's got a slightly lower quality and sound. I think that's starting to narrow as mic technology gets better, but XLR technology keeps getting better, so it's always like slightly behind, but it's not too bad. And it's a little bit harder to troubleshoot sound issues. For XLR, it's a slightly better sound quality. It's portable. It's versatile sound recording. the con is that it's expensive, and not
very expensive compared to. Well, you say that there is a mid-range one here for the Audio Technica, the AT2020.
The AT2020 mic is mid-range. The problem is the what you need is the DAC, which those can cost anywhere from $100 to $200. So it's a 50. I believe it's about a $60 microphone. But then you'll need another $100, $200 piece of hardware to make the XLR work with your PC. But the sound will be better. So I would suggest, if you are a starting fresh person or a sprout in the Final Fantasy 14, I would absolutely go USB all day. And if you love it, if you like doing this and you're considering just doing this as your content creation outlet, then you decide, I'm going to spend a little more money and maybe go XLR later on. I've been using USB mics for years. I started off on a headset microphone, gaming headset microphone. And I can tell you, I'm glad I upgraded later on. I'm glad I put a little more money into my mic.
I started with the Blue Snowball, and then I bumped up to the Blue Yeti because I decided to jump up. But I personally have loved the Blue Yeti brand of stuff, like the Blue Snowball, and I never tried the Yeti Nano because I said I jumped from the Blue Snowball to the Yeti. But until recently, I would always promote the Yeti stuff, and I feel we'll get to the higher bud range soon. But
higher range, I think, is, and I can go back to that screen real quick. The higher range mics, like the Blue Yeti, the Yeti X, the Samson USB Electrotech, and the Elgato Wave 3 is what both Chille and myself are using. And I could talk a little bit about this mic that I'm on right now, and so could Chille. The Wave 3 comes with what's the Wavelink software, and if you're a fan of Elgato or not, the Wavelink software is essentially Go XLR, but digital. It's a software version of a Go XLR. It's great. It lets me separate all of my audio sources into separate sources, and it allows me to control the volume of each one. For example, I can test it out with Chille. Chille, can you just ramble for you don't have to say words. You can just make noises.
Okay, these are some sounds that I'm making right now. I'm going to make some garlic chicken
and
wings after this.
As you can hear, I can control Chille's volume and mine stays perfectly fine. But then I will constantly raise Chille's volume here. And Chille, can you say something again?
Please don't do that. Nobody wants to hear my voice even louder. Nobody. Someone in chat, so I just want to let you know, we do have, for Maelstrom Radio, our producer, Susan Sprinkles, in chat. She's jotting down what she sees as questions, and we'll get these. We have a Q&A section, and absolutely, if you have any questions about microphones, software, any of that, save your questions or type them in chat. Any of that, we will absolutely try to answer them the best we can. So there's some other gear on here as well. Pop filter, boom arm, like I said, the toner TC30 for under $50. Before we go there, can I just cover a little bit more about the high range quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I will say that depending on your circumstances, there is a benefit for both the Blue Yeti over the Wave 3. Wave 3 is very directional. You have to face it exactly. It is a cardigan. It's a cardigan microphone.
It wears a light sweater. It's a cardioid microphone.
Well, the Blue Yeti does have multiple different settings. So if you're doing a real life group podcast with multiple people, then a Blue Yeti might be a good idea for you. Like when I did a previous podcast at FanFest, we had multiple people stand up to have a little chat. For that, the Blue Yeti might be a little bit better, although you still have the more background noise because of it. But there is both pros and cons for both the Wave 3, for all of these. Yeah. But for my personal experience between the Wave 3 and the Blue Yeti, that can be a selling point if you know that you're a group of people that will be together.
Yeah, so...
really, you would need one microphone each, but at the same time, this works too if need be.
And Chille makes a very good point. If you're going to be doing a podcast at home and you have a friend that plays Final Fantasy 14 and you can meet live in a location to chat, you might just need the Blue Yeti microphone. And then you can pick up both your side of the conversation and your friend's side of the conversation off one microphone, and that's great. That's amazing. It saves you money. You both can invest in one mic if you both split the cost and put it in, and then you just have to maybe get 2 pop filters and put them in front of the mic, and then find a closet to go into and record record your podcast, or a very tight corner hallway with some pillows.
Well,
whatever works.
If you've got an RTX card, NVIDIA Broadcast will probably work to help remove some of that background noise as well.
Or that. Your choice, really. The closet or the NVIDIA software. And, of course, some other gear is a pop filter or a boom arm. Like I said, the pop filter removes your plosives, your P sounds. And the boom arm is just, if you're going to be recording off one microphone, I would suggest maybe getting a boom arm so that way you can have it so that you're facing your friend, and I'll point like, so how Chille and I are, if the mic was like right here where my fist is, Chille and I's mouth, we don't have to bend down to it like this. We could have it in a way that's both good for our voices and directional, so that way it's fair. It's in the between both of us, and that way it's being picked up well between the both of us. A boom arm will help with that. So we'll go on, like I said, we'll go on to software and hosting. I'll switch over. So a lot of this is to show you that you do not need to really break the bank to do a Final Fantasy XIV podcast. And honestly, Chille and I can both attest that other than like constantly upgrading as you go on is fine, but starting out, don't Chille, how much to start out? Like what you say, $50 is probably right around.
I would say 50 would be fine.
So
push 100 if you want to be fancy, but 50 is probably the sweet spot, to be honest.
It really is. Yeah. There's some free editing software options for you. There's WavePad, Ocean Audio, GarageBand. If you have a Mac, GarageBand is your great. Use GarageBand. Even if you have a gaming PC and you have like a Mac Mini someplace, or you have a Mac laptop for school that you use, GarageBand is a great editing source. It's completely free. So go ahead and use it. Like I said, if you're recording from your phone and you have one of those fancy like phone mics that you bought and you want to do that, GarageBand is technically on your phone. You can go edit your show there. Cakewalk, Wavesaur, and Audacity.
That's my favorite one so far.
What, Wavesaur? Oh, Cakewalk, yeah.
Cakewalk.
Audacity, but find a download version 3.0 earlier than 3.0. Yeah. There's unfortunate they started tracking your data. There is a way to remove it, but I'm not going to talk about how to break into software and change things around. So, paid editing software options, of course, are Adobe Audition, Reaper, and SoundForge. Reaper is probably Reaper has a very
new job in Fantasy 14.
It also is a new job in Final. That's absolutely right. But Reaper also has a very high end skill level, but low. Like you can get in there and not know what you're doing. And there's a lot of YouTube videos that work with Reaper. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Again, but Audition is way too expensive for what it does. I know this because I have an older version of Audition, is what I'm still using to this day. I would say if it was a package deal still through Adobe, maybe that would be an option. But since it's on a monthly subscription now, I would advise against it. If you could find somewhere an old copy of Adobe Audition that's sealed and someone's allowing you to buy that software, grab it. It's pretty powerful. The only downside is that there's not a lot of plugins for it anymore, so it's a bummer. And then SoundForge. And
I'll be honest, I've always used Audacity. As much as the issues now, that's what I've used.
Yeah. I will say Audacity, and I'm not going to just say which version, but Audacity is super powerful, and there's a lot of plugins for Audacity. And same with, I believe, Wavesaur and WavePad. All three of those have a lot of plugins you can use, so you can really get into the fine tuning and editing to make your voice sound as great as you want it to. And as you start to hear yourself, and that's going to be some of the tips we'll give you later, getting used to hearing yourself when you're editing your own show, unless you have a friend that just wants to edit your show for you, and then you don't have to worry about it. But
I missed those days.
You have that one friend is like, I don't want to necessarily be on the show. I just want to edit the show.
I miss those days.
So
if we ever get rich enough, that's the first thing I'd ever.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. It's sometimes it's something I had to break away from, like learn to get used to over the years as I kept editing, because I hated hearing my own voice. But then I would just like block it out and be like, that's a dork talking about Final Fantasy 14. That's okay. I'm going to edit his show. And then I'll be like, that's me. I'm the dork. And for hosting Maelstrom Radio, we use Anchor. It's completely free to use. It's got unlimited storage. You don't need to worry about the size of your audio files or per each episode, the number of your episodes you're hosting, or how many files you upload if in your Anchor archive, and it distributes to podcast hosting outlets for you. If you're getting started, that is probably the biggest headache, is trying to figure out like how to get hosting. Anchor makes it so easy. You just sign up. It gives you a little splash screen website. It makes it very, very easy to get started. It's owned by Spotify. There is a little bit of, there's some downsides. If you choose to do Anchor's, like, hey, we'll pay you to do ads, I would be weary of doing that, because there's only so many hits you're going to get paid. And it's not a lot. and a lot of the time you're going to do an ad for Anchor. And it does take away a lot of stress for you. And it does, to me, it does relieve a lot of the hassle of having to pay. Now, Chille will say there is a benefit to using a paid service. Yeah. And Chille, do you want to tell them about Podbean? By the way, this is not an ad for either of these things. Yeah, it's just the ones.
There are multiple different ones that you can use, but these are the ones we use right now. I've used Podbean for years. It costs only $9 a month, though. There is a free service for Podbean, but if you're going to go for a free service, I would recommend Anchor over Podbean, because you're limited on the amount of uploads you can do, the files you can upload. I think it's like 100 megabyte upload limit for the month with the free, which if you're doing podcasts regularly, you're going to cap in the week, because we like to talk, unless you do really short podcasts. Anyway, unlimited storage and bandwidth is included with the $9 a month. You get a free podcast website, which we use to advertise your podcast, of course. Social media auto sharing. You can link your Twitter, your Facebook, your WordPress, all the different types of social media that is out there. You can link to your Podbean account. So as soon as you upload a file, it'll tweet out or post a message or whatever the different types of message sent out words are. There's the Podbean app, which I've never actually used myself. Email integration, and you can also statistics. You can view all the different ways people have downloaded and all the different places that people have downloaded your thing.
So Chille, you've been using Podbean for years now, right? Like for all your shows? And
pretty much.
Have you had any like issues going about using Podbean at all? Like any like downtime or anything like that?
I've had a little bit of downtime, but I want to say, because of the fact I've been doing it for about 9 years, podcasting, that downtime might have been the equivalent of a couple of hours in that 9 years. So yeah, every website's had issues. I'm not going to say that they're perfect, because like they used to have a better statistic page that I used to love, because it used to tell you each individual iTunes, Android, blah blah blah, Spotify, Pandora. It used to tell each individual one. Now it just kind of like, this is how many you have.
It is how many we have. So that's the boring stuff. Right? That's all the boring stuff. So I think we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about the fun stuff and some of the things that we've learned along the way, and information we can give you from ourselves. So Chille, let's go ahead and talk about some of the challenges and things we didn't realize about making a podcast. You wanna go ahead? Oh, you can absolutely go first. I think you.
Okay. Okay. There's always a challenge and a balance with multiple hosts because everyone has their own opinion, free time, and other things. It's hard to try and balance when they're both co-hosts are okay mentally and physically. Sometimes screw-ups can happen, but learning and improving from them is a good learning curve too. Though I have never done a solo show, nobody would want to see that. As someone who has done multiple different podcasts with groups, it's good to have someone with slightly different opinions than your own because it allows you to go back and forth on a topic. As long as you're not 100% different, though, it just makes arguments. Of course, that is some good content. Though, of course, for some people, that might be what they want to tune in for. But for a lot of people, conflict isn't just what they want. They want, thoughts.
I agree. And it is a meshing of personalities, right? Because essentially, when you start a podcast, you're starting a partnership with someone that also likes the hobby that you're both into and want to talk about it. And you have to realize that, and I'll be real honest. Like, I've been doing podcasting now for years, and like, it's better to try to learn early on than later on. That constructive criticism from all sides is beneficial to success, right? Like, you don't want to put somebody else's idea down because you may not like it. Because it doesn't hurt to try something. You learn. If it fails, you learn from it and you try something else. But if it succeeds, then you run with it. And I think, it's going to be hard. And like, the challenges you learn from, and Susan even said it in chat, the first 10 shows will not be good. Like, and that's probably a rough estimate, that your first 10 episodes will probably not be your best episodes. You're going to be learning.
I feel like the Moogle Ground, the first 120 episodes are not that good.
But it's for real though. Like, your audio is not going to be perfect. You're going to be very stiff. You're not going to be natural on a mic yet. It's learning how to really, like, hone in talking, but also being entertaining and how to hold a conversation, because it's not just the conversation you're having anymore. It's like, also I'm talking and also being entertaining and having a conversation with your co-host solo. There's people that do podcasts solo, and that is tough. I've listened to solo podcasts, and it is a tough thing. I've done solo podcasts, and it is a tough thing to do. It is not the easiest thing to do. So to be very, like, creative and open and entertaining on a microphone is very hard, but it is something you get used to over time. I'm not trying to discourage anybody out there. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it does take a couple episodes to hone it in. It's like sharpening a knife, right? It's not going to be the best knife until you really, like, hone the blade. So it's the same thing. You just got to hone your skills. And
podcasting is like a knife.
Yeah, it's the podcasting. It's like a knife. It's sharp, and you don't fall on it. And I also want to touch on what I'm curious about, and I think a lot of people are probably curious about. Like, Chille, why did you choose Final Fantasy XIV as a podcast?
I think one of the biggest reasons for me is I love the community so much. I've been playing the game since the 1.0 launch. So I took a break because of how bad that was, and then I started in the 2.0 alpha test. So yeah, I just enjoy the community, if I'm honest. It's why I've gone to FanFest in the past, because I enjoy meeting people and talking about the game.
FanFest in America, no less. Chille, by the way, Chille's in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell by his accent. He's not from the South, as some people led to believe, but Chille is, in fact, from England. So,
I am.
Who knew? For me, part of it was that I started with a different podcast, and I for the people that know about EverQuest Next, I guess. But for the people that don't, I started doing a podcast way back then, and I met my best friend, who's in chat currently typing, Shinter, and when we started playing Final Fantasy XIV, it wasn't like it was like an on-off situation, but then eventually we stuck with it. And we realized that we really had a lot of fun just like poking fun at the like MMOs and talking with each other about it. And then I asked him to do a show with me, and he reluctantly said yes because he's not a fan of being on the microphone. And one of the things I enjoy so much, and I say this to every show that asks me like why I started doing Final Fantasy XIV podcast, I enjoy sharing his opinion and him with the world. I think Quentin is one of the most fascinating people and best people I've ever met. And I love talking about this game. And as our show evolved over the years, we got to not only learn about each other playing this game, but also learn about the community. And something we do very unique to Maelstrom Radio is we really like try to touch base with like what are people doing in Final Fantasy XIV and what makes it unique to that community that they're doing in. We've interviewed people from the Crystal server databases, RP communities that do dance shows, and it's fascinating how much this community does. And I will say each podcast out there does something different.
Yeah.
So
around is more about having a chat with your friends than anything.
But
we've had some good interviews in the past. We've had Mr. Happy, we've had Frosty, we've had Susan Calloway.
Not Susan Sprinkle.
Susan Sprinkle. Not yet. Coming soon. We'll probably get so much learned from Susan Sprinkles, to be honest.
So I think one of the things we can talk about is, get to know some of the other content creators out there doing podcasting, right? There are, believe it or not, there is not a lot of Final Fantasy XIV podcasts. There is I can probably count them on two fingers or on two hands. I'm sorry, like all 10 digits, all 10 of my fingies on two fingers.
I got to recommend A4 Radio though for Bird of Chest, my rival.
Yeah. And then as you can see on the splash screen, it's a lot about get inspired by other content creators and make friendships with other content creators. I will absolutely say all these podcasts out there will talk to you or have some form of, they'll look for guests and want to chat. Each one does something unique and different. And each of them does, reach out to the community. It's great. And if you're somebody that works a 9-to-5 podcast and you can listen to a podcast while you work, it makes time go by fast, especially if it's something like, if you love Final Fantasy XIV, you can hear other people talk about it and take their opinion, get their opinions on stuff and hear what they're doing. And some of these shows are new shows. Some of these shows are talking about what they're just doing in game based on their FCs, some are doing world first talks and news talks, and some are, very informative. Some are less informative. It just depends on what you like to listen to and what you might want to do yourself. So, Chille, what is some of your best podcasting experiences doing Final Fantasy XIV podcasting?
I've been doing podcasting for so long, but I feel like one of my best experiences has to be when I got Mr. Happy on the show. As someone who's really enjoyed his content over the years, this was a chance I didn't think we'd ever get because of how casual Moogle Go Around is compared to all these big name podcasts. We're no State of the Realm. We're no LBR. We're no A4 Radio. But getting him on it taught me something where the fact that a lot of people out here want to talk and they'll enjoy talking about the video game they love. So if I am able to contact them and ask them, just once, don't spam them. But if you ask, there's a high chance that they might come onto your show and chat with you and talk about their experiences as well. And that helped me a lot. And it was just fun to be in. I was nervous.
I learned early on in the run of Maelstrom Radio that I am not a fan of just talking about the news or reading live letter notes. It is to me, I cannot make that entertaining. I tried to make it entertaining. I can't make it entertaining. I'd rather chat with people doing fun things in the game, be it raiding, be it creating music now in the game, just doing interesting things, amazing people doing housing and stuff like that. That interests me because these people, the people out there, the players of the game are doing cool stuff within the game, and I like to learn about that.
Say like some sort of convention.
Yeah, some sort of convention like this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It is a testament, and I'm a curious human, and I love to learn about how they do it, because I can't do it. I don't know how to do that. I don't necessarily know how to do housing. I'm not a housing expert. There are other people out there that are. I'm not a G-pose expert. There's other people out there that are. There's people out there doing fun things and taking the nature of the game that's more than questing, more than MSQ, more than raiding, more than PvP, and turning other parts of the game into their own content. And that fascinates me. And it fascinates me to this day. And I love chatting with them. And I can't wait to see who we chat with in the future. And there's a bunch of new players coming to this game. And I feel there's a lot of potential for a Final Fantasy XIV podcasting to really blow up. So last but not least, and I think this might be a quick hit, or not quick hit, but Chille. What are some tips that you can give people to get them started in podcasting?
I think with some of the best tips of don't break the budget.
Okay.
That's the biggest tip of all that we can say.
Yes.
Remember, mistakes will happen, and you may look at the back of the few episodes you do, and they might not be very good. That's fine, but just make sure to listen to them, grow from them, improve yourself, and also, as I said before, chat with other content creators. I know that me and Flattus from Motion Radio would happy to have you on our podcast if you want to be on to learn and chat with us, and just be on just to share your experiences, or to get ready for when you start your first episode. That way we can promote you. We're happy to promote.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, at least Moogle Go Around's happy to promote pretty much anything.
I'll go back to the screen. See all these podcasts, all of them. Mostly all of them. When Maelstrom Radio did their 150th episode, when we did our 150th episode, majority of these people tweeted out, retweeted us, interacted with our show, wished us well, sent in voice calls to us, and it was touching and made us realize why we love this community. So it is, the podcasting community has got each other's back, and I will say, I think one of the fun things that we did, Chille, is that we both got invited to Vegas to do the Limit Break Radio after party for the content creators, the podcasters. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to meet people that knew us and talk to us. A lot of people knew you, I had a guy who knew.
Scary.
I had a guy that knew Maelstrom Radio. He touched my face. He was a little tipsy, but that's fine. This was before pandemic, though, so I wasn't too worried about anything crazy. But
the before times,
yeah. And of course, I do want to give a tip for. I think my biggest tip that I learned way back when I was the Babby podcaster talking about EverQuest Next, is that make a show that you want to listen to. If you make the podcast you want to listen to, you're gonna have a lot more fun doing it. And I think that's a testament to what we do here at Maelstrom Radio. It's because it's the show that we would want to listen to. I don't necessarily think Quentin and I would want to listen to a podcast about, just Final Fantasy news. Nothing that there's wrong with that. It's just we wanted to make the show that we wanted to listen to. That's why we didn't do a news show anymore, because we weren't doing it well. And we were better at talking with each other and joking and learning what other people did in the game. So that is, please take that. That is probably the best tip I can give somebody. I learned it years ago from podcasters I looked up to. And it's funny because all three of them told me the same thing, is that make the show you wanted to. And they all learned that from their people that made the podcast before them. So hopefully I can impart that knowledge to you, is make the podcast you want to listen to. If you're into housing and you don't think there's a podcast about housing, make a housing podcast. Talk about designs and how you do things, and like that's amazing. So and I think with that gives us about 10 minutes to take Q&A from the audience, and it looks like we already have a question. We've
got a couple of questions.
A couple of questions. All right. How long, this is from Rock Druid, how long should a podcast be? Is there something that's too long or too short? Chille, Chille, how would you describe this? I think both of our podcasts do things a little differently. So I'll let you go first, and I can go after and talk about the differences.
Really, it depends on what you're doing. Now, we have a separate podcast that's not part of Maelstrom Radio or Moogle called Sound Bites.
Yep.
Now, with that topic, we try to aim for 15 minutes because we feel like that's the perfect amount of time for that podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like, really, depending on your topic, that you should remember that your time will be flexible. We've had episodes of Moogle Go Around that go 2 to 3 hours because it's a Christmas special, which was split up, by the way, into multiple episodes. But I would say, on average, you should be aiming for about an hour. I think an hour is the sweet spot for listening. Any longer than that, you'll start to see drop off. But about an hour is about the sweet spot, I'd say. But again, it depends on what you're talking about. Sometimes there might be a lot of news and you might end up covering a lot, or you'll have multiple guests on and you'll ramble.
If you take a show like LBR, for example, Limit Break Radio, most of their shows are 2-3 hour plus episodes, but they do a lot of segments, right? They take phone calls. They do a lot of things to extend the length of the show. So it's not a stagnant one topic thing. They start off talking with each other. They open the phone lines. They talk to guests. So every piece of the show is somewhat different. And then they always have like a segment that they do. Or they did. They're coming back, I think, at some point. I think, but they always do some sort of segment that extends.
They'll only be coming back for events like FanFest or patches or stuff like that.
So,
from what I can tell.
For Maelstrom Radio, we shoot for an hour. We feel that's the perfect time for our show. There have been episodes that went an hour and a half. But we do that if the conversation is just too good. We're like, man, the conversation just like, we don't want to cut the person off, a guest off if the conversation's great. Sometimes it just an hour is enough, and then we do it like that. If you feel 30 minutes is enough, 30 minutes is your show. Like I said, you want to really aim for what your feel is comfortable. If you listen to your show and you feel like it's too long, start figuring out where you can cut time back in. And then like I said, the first 10 episodes is really where you'll hone that in.
Can I add one more thing to this question? It doesn't completely cover this question exactly, but I will add one thing that I was just thinking about because of this question. Remember, but LBR is longer as well because it has more people, so therefore more people talking. Therefore, there's only 2 of us normally, so, and guests. I would say that if you're going to have guests on the show, for the first few times you have guests, limit it to one person because you don't know how well you're going to mesh and get used to doing it. And then even then, after you've got used to that, limit it to only 2 guests. You can do specials where you'll have more than 2 guests if need be, but I would suggest always limit it to 2 guests because that way, otherwise it's just become an audio confusion because none of you used to. You'll either have a load of empty space because nobody's talking, or you'll have no space because everyone's talking over each other.
I learned that early on too. My first, like I said, Evercast podcast, we had 6 main hosts, and then if we added guests, it was like 2. Then we had 8 people on mic. It was not fun. Next is, and I might butcher this name, Kayalai.
I want to say it's Kalia Stacia Noodle.
All right, Chille owned it. Got it. Do you have any advice for someone who wants to do multi-topic podcast that touches on but does not center around Final Fantasy XIV? Sure. Do it. I mean, like if you want to do a podcast that's Final Fantasy XIV and Animal Crossing, do it. But no.
You know what?
What's up?
I will say that you're going to be doing better than a lot of the Final Fantasy XIV podcasters because you'll have multiple different topics. You won't have to try and make 3 months over a topic. It's in, yeah, do it.
Stacy Noodle, Susan said in chat. You do it. Like, and if your other topics are multiple MMOs, just make sure that you give each.
I think I got it right then, almost.
I think you did, Chille. I think it make sure that you're giving each thing it's fair enough time. If there's no content, just make sure that it's clear and focused. But it's entirely possible. So you don't have to focus around one game. Just make sure that when you go into it, that's what you're aiming for, and just let people know, hey, we're going to be a Final Fantasy 14 podcast and a Fisk podcast, or we're going to be Final Fantasy 14 and so and so. And it, as long as that you have a healthy, as long as your conversation's good, how long your show's going to be, you'll do great. You'll do absolutely great. Tibient Salts asks, what if you're interested in doing a podcast that's similar to other podcasts? It's hard to be unique with so many content creators out there. So,
I mean, you could easily answer this with a simple sentence.
Well, I think, like I said, make the podcast you want to listen to, right? I just said it earlier. Yeah. Your podcast will be unique to you. Again, I can go back to the screen. There's some podcasts on here that are similar to others, but they are unique in their own way. She Heals I Tank covers the game and news, but also so does Phoenix Down Radio. But they're two different shows because She Heals I Tank are a married couple talking about the game, and Phoenix Down Radio are three friends talking about the game, and each one has a different perspective in each of their fields. So it's always going to be a little bit different. So be unique to yourself, even if you do something that's similar to somebody else. It's about your experiences and your opinions. I would suggest always try to do your show, do your recording. If you have like opinions about the MSQ, always support the other creators, listen to the other creators, but maybe record your thoughts first. So, and then go back and listen there. So that way your opinion isn't influenced by someone else. Would you agree with that, Chille?
Yes. All I'm going to say is everyone's opinion is unique.
It is.
No matter what, you might feel like you're making something that's like someone else's. But guess what? There's every type of media where something is like something else, but it's your view on it that makes it unique. No matter what.
Simpsons did it first.
Yeah, Simpsons did it first. I want to go back and find the Fantasy 14 podcast Simpson episode now.
And I will apologize if I mispronounce your name, just to let you know now. Eagle Chrysanthemum. I'm going to say I got that right. What's your preparation for guests, and what is the procedure should a guest veer off the planned discussion path? You want to take this one, Chille? I feel like veering off the planned discussion path is something you guys do well.
Look, planned discussion path is what you want to talk about, but that doesn't mean that you're going to follow it exactly. You're going to move around at least as a natural chatting podcast where we can talk about whatever you want. We want to talk about Fantasy 14, but sometimes we talk about chicken. It just happens. That's true. I would say that make sure you know. Well, I say don't know. You don't have to know your guests, but make sure you just have a little chat with your guests beforehand. And just remember that just try and in your head get used to maybe pushing it back if need be.
Yeah.
Gently I would nudge slowly back to the road.
I would use your planned discussion as a guide, but not a solid guide. Like I wouldn't use it as your like be all end all. It's a spark of conversation, right? Like where would the conversation lead based on the guide that you're using?
A start, B parasols, D
right.
Finished.
We have 2 more questions and 1 minute left, so let's go ahead and crush these 2, and we'll end our panel. From Fina Brave, do you record a few episodes before and release them weekly, bi-weekly, or do you just record them live and push them out?
We release bi-weekly, but we record them live on Twitch on this channel right now, and we push them out like a week later so that people on Twitch have the advantage, can listen to it early.
Same. That's what we do here. We decided to do live. I would suggest if you're first starting out record your podcast without doing live on Twitch. I think adding this adds an extra level of difficulty to your podcast that if you're first starting out, you don't need. If you want to do that later, at least you already figured out your audio, how your show is going to flow and everything like that. Then you can do it on Twitch. I'm taking, and please take that from learning the hard way, and record your first 5 episodes or first 3 episodes, and you have them in the can. That way, when you release them, you're already recording your next few set of episodes, depending on what your show is. If your show's based on news, you don't want to do that because you want to keep in time with the news. But if if you're aiming for like evergreen content, you're talking about lore, for example, record them out and then drop them when you need to. And last but not least, because we have we got to get out of here. From Mint Jorgensen, I love that name. How do you keep coming up with ideas for episodes when your general topic is Final Fantasy XIV? Are you ever afraid that you'll run out of ideas and it won't feel fresh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. There's always going to be some topics you can talk about. If you're a news-based Final Fantasy XIV podcast, then yes, I can see this being an issue. But if you're doing a general topic, there is all these different things. You've got Vermilion if you want to, I guess. Chocobo racing, housing, lore, glamour discussions, job discussions, end game raid discussions, alliance raid discussions. You've got all these types of different topics you can talk about, and even if you go back and talk about those topics again, if you have guests on, there'll be different viewpoints on those topics. So no matter what, it's going to be hard to run out of ideas. Whether they're going to be good or not, I can't say. That's but there is all different ways you can chat if need be about Final Fantasy XIV. So if you are just a general news topic podcast, then yeah, you will have issues.
Yeah, it's if you're going to do general news, you're going to have a little more difficult of a time. But then I would suggest figuring out ways to make other topics you're interested in also a part of your show early on. If you're, hey, I want to talk about the news, but also figure out, like, if you're into lore, start doing lore segments, and then that way, if you can't talk about the news, you have a section or a podcast day where, like, oh, hey, we're going to really deep dive into Palace of the Dead lore, and that way you have something to fall back on. Don't limit yourself unless you really are like going for a very short news podcast, like 15 minutes of I'm your Final Fantasy 14 minute of the week sort of podcast, and like that way it's always fresh, because if there's only a little bit of news, you're doing a very short podcast. So thank you all. We got to get out of here because we're over time. So thank you all. Thanks for everyone that showed up live to watch 2 people talk about why you want to be a Final Fantasy 14 podcaster. You can do this, and we hope you do it. We hope that you've learned something today.
We want you.
Yeah, we want you, and I'm excited for Final Fantasy 14. It's blowing up currently, and we would love to see more podcasters recording. There's more than just Twitch and streaming. Absolutely, if you have a mic and you have opinions, you can do this too. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of LunarCon, and as we say here, this is secretly a podcaster recruitment panel. It really is. As we say here on Maelstrom Radio, till sea swallows all. Keep listening. Bye, everybody. Mulgo doesn't have a line. Mulgo like, at least they have chicken. That's there they go.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy the rest of LunarCon. Bye. And thank you for the follows. We appreciate it. Follow Mulgo, follow Maelstrom Radio. You've hit that little follow button. It's completely free. It's free entertainment. So thank you all so much. Thank you to Susan Sprinkle, who helped create this with us and help make sure that we didn't sound like fools and do the panel weird and grab questions for us.
Thanks, Discord, for screwing us up over a second there earlier.
Streamy Kitty, do you all stream on your podcast on Twitch? We absolutely do. Maelstrom Radio streams here live Friday nights at 9 p.m. Move Around does bi-weekly at 6 p.m. Eastern. What time? Well, no, you guys change a little bit, but go follow both. We absolutely do that. Yes.
Because we're a UK-based podcast, we sometimes do have UK guests, so we'll be a little bit earlier those weeks just to be accommodating. But on average, it's 6 p.m. EST.
And Susan Sprinkle, I think, can help us which where LunarCon
Luke Chan, my teacher.
Yeah, his t-shirt Slim Chan. Susan, where should everybody go next for LunarCon? And can we host them? Are they doing a Twitch presence? We can send them right on over.
I think the next one's not till 10 minutes from now.
10 minutes, perfect. I mean, they're not live yet. I mean, if we have 10 minutes, I will absolutely entertain these people for 10 minutes, Chille.
Talking about stuff getting not used to, I still don't like being on camera.
I know you don't. I also big shout out to Chille. Yeah.
I'm not a camera person.
And of course, if you click our link for our Discord, if you have questions, Chille's in our Discord. You can join it there. I'm in there. Quentin's in there. We all can help you with your questions of podcasting.
Moogle Garand also has a Discord.
Streamy Kitty's asking, what's your favorite episode you two have done? Chille, would you like to answer that question really quick?
I like the one where I did with Susan Calloway because that was a big shocker that we got Susan Calloway on. Question for filling time. Answer if it's a link block test. Pants.
Pants.
Now, do you mean American pants or British pants? Because those are two different pants.
Okay. That's right. The next event is the in-game one. It's the housing item auction. So for me, we interviewed a lovely dance troupe off of Crystal called Lucky Sparrow, and they are so kind and amazing people, and I adore them. I've gone to a few of their shows. They are so kind. How they do their show is amazing. It takes so much work, and that's like the first time I realized like how much effort people are willing to put into this game, that is outside of rating. And to see that like the fact that they can like trigger these emotes so fast during the dances and do costume change, I was fascinated, and they were such lovely people. We got to meet them at FanFest. They took the time to want to meet us live, myself and Quentin, my co-host Shinter, in chat, and I will always remember that episode. It really solidified that I like doing Final Fantasy XIV podcasting and content creation. So, also there is a raid panel that will be streamed that happens in like 10 minutes or so. Cool. I mean, I'll raid them. We still have like 38 viewers. I will absolutely send everybody over to the raid panel.
What's the raid panel?
And I'm sure Susan will get me the information, and I will load it in, and we can both.
I can also raid them. Yeah,
everybody will raid them. Yes, we also had Hottie Chicken on. She is delightful. She is kind, and she really wants to make you do better at doing your content. Like she truly wants to see people succeed. And I think that really helped us like reinvest ourselves into what we do here, which is great. Like sometimes it's good to hear it. Like, yeah, you absolutely should focus on this and do this and push, and it's nice to hear. Go ahead.
I'd also like to know what people think about the poop hat.
Chille loves that poop hat, and he really needs encouragement on reasons to wear it more on stream. Chille would probably stream on camera more often if he knew that poop hat was a winner.
I mean, I wore it the last time I streamed on cam.
I know you did. I think I think at this point, it's validation. Yes, validation. So, if you are watching on the Move Around stream, please follow. If you're watching on the Maelstrom Radio stream, please follow. If you're watching on the opposites of streams, follow each other's stream. Did I say that right? I felt like I said that right.
Just follow everyone. Just press follow on everything. Yeah. Also, I'm still waiting for that name from Susan.
She's typing it out. If she can type out one of the people's names, I will grab it and rate them.
I might be able to. Oh, it's right there.
That's cool. It's because there's 3 people. So Chille, you can actually choose a different person. Thank you for following.
I'll do Rin probably.
Oh, I just said I was. All right. Do Llama Todd.
I mean, both Rin and Llama Todd follow us, but.
Ooh.
Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you.
I hope you.
I think
live?
you're right. I think you're right, Chille. I think since one of these is live, I think we should just raid Rin.
Okay, we're gonna raid Rin.
Yeah, because their panel goes live in 5 minutes, so we're gonna get you in there now. Thank you, everybody. Like I said, if you want, join the Maelstrom Radio Discord. If you have questions and we didn't touch or you just didn't think of it here, please reach out to us. Or even on Twitter. You know, we're available. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of LunarCon. Enjoy the rest. I hear my friend Anonymous is doing a little chat tomorrow night, so please check that out if you like lore. I'm excited to see what he does. So
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.
Remember to follow the raid. Raid!
Not Shadow Legends.
Damn it, we both said it. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.